I am here with Gary Smith, head coach of the Brighton Bears, have just been defeated by the Portsmouth Force 70-68. Gary, look, that was a tough game, and I mean, how do you feel about
that? You always hate to lose sometimes, but I think with this game for us, it was a thing where we haven't really had as many practices as what we would like to have had in the new year. So for us, it was to be in the game against the top team in our league. It was just nice to be in a position where we could have won the game. I thought we could have won the game towards the end. We didn't get one or two calls go our way. Didn't go our way, so, and basically that's where the game was lost. One or two calls what didn't go our way towards the end. So that was that, really.
We got to highlight the defensive presence of your guys. Last time the Force came to Brighton, you stopped them from, they could only score 66 points on you. Today it was 70. I mean, you're an extremely good defensive side.
Appreciate that, thank you. I think for us, we're still learning. We have a young team, even though we might have one or two guys who might be, 28, 29. We still have a young team. Everyone else is under the age of 22 years old, and they're learning to play the game. You can always throw the ball up and get some shots up here, there, and everywhere, and say you're a basketball player. But how do you play the game? In terms of defense, if you want to win, you have to. If you want to be in the game, you have to be able to play defense, and that's what we go. That's what I go by at the end of the day, and that's my philosophy. That's what we need to do. Scoring. If we can hold the team to 60, 70 points, we're always in a good chance to win the game. And for that to happen, we have to play aggressive defense. We're a small team, so we have to play aggressive defense, and that's what the lads have started to do, which is good.
It definitely showed today. And, we saw Thomas Adikas. It was his usual strong form, but we got to talk about Michael Hughes, especially. I mean, he was up for it today. He came ready for the game. I mean, he was diving for balls. He was playing full court defense. I mean, would you agree that was a pretty good display from him today?
No, of course, agreed. He's a strong guard. He's 5'10", 5'11", but in terms of his body, he can, and that's why he's able to bump people, to play aggressive on the defensive end. He's able to dive for put people off offensively, putting his hand in there, this and the other. He does that, and he leads from the front, which is, he's not posing. He's not saying, oh, I can play defense. He's showing me he can play defense. And that's the type of players we need. We have, should I say. Never let the opponent outwork you. And we did that today, so.
And look, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit now, because it's not every day we would call legends walk in the door. And look, you've played for Worthing Bears. You've played in the top flight. You've played with, absolutely Portsmouth legends with Colin Irish, Steve Nelson, Mike Spade, all those guys. Can you tell us a little bit something about those days, like Solent Stars as well? Can you give us a little bit about those days?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I learned to play basketball. Yeah, and that's where my coaching philosophy comes from the back of that, if that makes any sense. We are, those days, Solent Stars, when you had the likes of Carl Tatum and stuff, those are the guys I came up playing against when I was 16 years old, playing in Newcastle, playing for Gateshead. And having been able to play against players like that, and then coming through, and then when it was my turn, when I developed, I was playing with and against the likes, with Colin Irish, Alan Cunningham, some of the guys who have bona fide legends in basketball in England. And again, that's where I learned to win, knowing how to win. I learned that from those guys. And there's so many players out there. You have the Cal Patrick Wells, the Stephen Nelsons. You have there's so many players out there which you have to know British basketball to know where we are now in terms of British basketball and where we've come from. Like you said, those guys are legends. They're bona fide legends, and that's where I learned the game from. I learned from them. I was lucky enough to be on the same team as them. So.
I spoke to Steve Nelson once on a podcast, and he said to me that the practices that you would have with Alan Cunningham and Colin Irish were more intense than the actual game sometimes.
100%. 100%. They were. I mean, listen, we practiced on a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. and practice was intense. When we ran our stuff and we did our fitness and it was time for us to play against different matchups and this and the other, that's what made it so easy for us in the games. Yeah, because we practice was just intense, you know. So when we came into games, the games weren't as intense as what practice was. So we were able to then say, you know what, if we could pick it up, you know, and when you've got Patrick Wells, you've got Colin Irish, you've got Cleve Lewis, you know, you got Alan Condon. You know, when you've got players like that on your team, and not just those guys, but the abundance of talent what we had back then on our teams, it made it easy in the game. You know, we were coming out to, you know, we'd be in situations where we might be, say, 8 points down with a minute and 30 to go, maybe 2 minutes to go, just under 2 minutes, and we'd win by 8. You know, so it was just because we knew how to play. And, you know, all the things what I learned from those guys there, that's what I'm trying to implement with my players now, you know, so, yeah.
Well, look, someone with your wealth of experience, you know, it's great to see you on the sidelines. And look, on behalf of Portsmouth Basketball Club, it's a pleasure having you here today. And, you know, even though commiserations on loss, you know, I hope you enjoyed the atmosphere. But thank you so much for coming on the interview. Portsmouth Force have just won by 2 points, and we will be back in 2 weeks, Saturday the 18th, for our next league game. Portsmouth are still undefeated.